Congratulations, Supreme Commander Vraxx. Your forces have successfully neutralized the primitive defensive outpost on the third planet of the Helios system. The communications officer's mandibles clicked excitedly as he delivered the news. The indigenous creatures barely put up a fight. Supreme Commander Vraxx of the Krozian Armada leaned back in his command chair, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence as his exoskeleton shimmered with satisfaction. The conquest of yet another world to add to the glorious Krozian Empire. Truly, this was becoming almost boring. Show me the captured footage of these. What did intelligence call them? Humans? Yes, Supreme Commander. Humans. Bipedal, soft-skinned mammals with absolutely laughable technology. The tactical officer tapped a sequence into his console. By the void, they still use combustion engines. And their most advanced weapons are kinetic projectiles. Can you imagine? The massive view screen flickered to life, showing grainy footage of bipedal creatures scurrying about in panic as Krozian infiltration pods rained from the sky. The outpost, some military installation in a place the humans called New Mexico, had been chosen as the first strike point precisely because it appeared to hold some significance to the humans' primitive defense network. Too easy, Vraxx muttered, his voice resonating through his thoracic chamber. Where's the challenge? Where's the glory? These humans didn't even detect our approach until we were in their atmosphere. The bridge crew chittered in amusement. The Supreme Commander's notorious bloodlust was well known throughout the Empire. The conquest of 73 galactic civilizations had earned him the title the Exterminator, but lately he seemed unsatisfied. Perhaps we should have studied them longer before attacking, offered strategic analyst Zorn, the only female on the command bridge. Her carapace was a deeper blue than the male's, adorned with the intricate patterns that denoted her high scientific rank. There are some anomalies in our initial data. Anomalies? Vraxx's antennae quivered with derision. Look at them, running in terror from a simple Class 3 infiltration force. What possible threat could these soft creatures pose to the might of the Krozian Empire? The view screen showed humans in primitive protective gear, some kind of cloth uniform with rudimentary armor, firing their projectile weapons at Krozian shock troops. The bullets simply bounced off the advanced metamaterial armor of the invaders. Their weapons can't even penetrate our defensive fields. Vraxx's mandibles spread in the Krozian equivalent of a smile. This will be a 3-day conquest at most. Prepare the colonization fleet. Zorn's compound eyes darkened with concern. Supreme Commander, with all due respect, our Cultural Analysis Division has flagged some unusual behavioral patterns among these humans. Their historical records show a remarkable capacity for what? Dying? Interrupted Vraxx, triggering a wave of clicking laughter across the bridge. I have seen enough. Send in the primary invasion force. Standard subjugation protocols. I want this planet's resources cataloged within 2 cycles. As you command, Supreme Commander. The weapons officer's appendages danced across his console. Deployment underway. As the bridge crew busied themselves with the invasion preparations, Zorn quietly transferred a data packet to her personal terminal. Something about these humans troubled her. Their technological development curve showed peculiar spikes that didn't match any known species pattern, and their information networks contained an unsettling amount of fictional scenarios involving alien invasions. Most disturbing of all, these humans seemed to relish the idea of fighting against overwhelming odds. What kind of evolutionary path would produce such a psychologically backward species? We are so monumentally screwed. General Jackson Ramsey stared at the satellite footage, his weathered face illuminated by the harsh blue light of the underground command center. That a warship, people. An honest-to-God alien warship. And it just turned our most secure facility into a smoking crater in under 5 minutes. Around the situation table, the hastily assembled Joint Chiefs of Staff and various intelligence directors sat in stunned silence. The attack on the Groom Lake Research Facility, Area 51 to the conspiracy theorists, had been swift, brutal, and terrifyingly efficient. What are our options, General? The President's voice crackled over the secure line from the emergency bunker beneath the White House. Ramsey rubbed his bloodshot eyes. Madam President, I'm going to be blunt. Conventional weapons appear to be almost completely ineffective against their armor and shields. We have thrown everything short of nuclear options at them, and it's like throwing spitballs at a tank. And nuclear options? The president's voice was steady, but Ramsey could hear the underlying tension. Unknown effectiveness. But they have positioned their main vessel over population centers. If we launch, we kill our own people. Dr. Amara Noble, director of the Xenobiology division that no one was supposed to know existed, cleared her throat. There's something else, Madam President. We have intercepted and partially decoded some of their communications. They're not here for peaceful contact. This appears to be the vanguard of a much larger force. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. They are calling this a standard subjugation protocol, Noble continued, her dark eyes intense behind her glasses. From what we can piece together, these creatures, the Krosians, have done this dozens, maybe hundreds of times before to other civilizations. My God, whispered the Secretary of Defense. We are dealing with an interstellar empire of conquerors. Actually, Noble said, pulling up a new set of data on the main screen, I think we are dealing with something worse. An interstellar empire of conquerors who have never faced serious resistance. They are overconfident, arrogant. They think this is going to be easy. A slow, dangerous smile spread across General Ramsey's face. Well then, I think it's time we give these bugs a proper human welcome. 2 days into the invasion, Supreme Commander Vraxx was beginning to feel the first twinges of concern. What do you mean we have lost contact with Assault Group Delta? He bellowed, his exoskeleton flaring crimson with rage. They were equipped with our most advanced weaponry. The tactical officer's antennae flattened submissively. Unknown, Supreme Commander. Their last transmission indicated they were pursuing human military forces into an area called Appalachian Mountains. Then nothing, and Gamma Squadron over the region designated Europe? Also missing, Supreme Commander, along with Beta Wing in Siberia and our Special Operations Unit in Amazon Basin. Vraxx's compound eyes narrowed to slits. This is unexpected. How are these primitive creatures disabling our forces? Strategic analyst Zorn stepped forward, her movements careful, measured. Supreme Commander, I have completed my analysis of human historical and cultural data. I believe I understand what's happening. Enlighten me. Vraxx hissed, his patience wearing dangerously thin. Zorn activated the main display, showing a montage of human historical footage. Humans have a unique psychological profile unlike any species we have encountered. When faced with overwhelming force, most species we have subjugated either surrender immediately or fight conventionally until defeated. And these humans, they do neither. When conventional warfare fails them, they adapt. Almost instantly, they switch to asymmetric tactics, guerrilla warfare, and most concerning of all, they appear to become more unified in the face of external threats. The display showed historical images. Primitive human warriors ambushing more technologically advanced invaders, small forces holding mountain passes against massive armies, and underground resistance movements operating in occupied territories. This pattern repeats throughout their history, Zorn continued. Furthermore, they have extensively theorized about alien invasions in their entertainment media. They have been rehearsing for this scenario for over a century. Vraxx's mandibles clicked in disbelief. You are suggesting these primitive mammals have already developed countermeasures for an event they had no evidence would ever occur? Precisely, Supreme Commander. And there's something else. Zorn hesitated, her exoskeleton shifting to a deep purple, the Krozian indication of deep concern. Human neural pathways appear to be stimulated by what they call adrenaline during combat situations. In essence, they may actually enjoy the challenge of fighting against superior forces. Preposterous. Vraxx slammed an appendage on his command console. No sentient species evolves to seek its own destruction. The communications officer suddenly straightened, his antennae rigid with alarm. Supreme Commander, we are detecting unauthorized access to our battlefield network. The humans they have hacked into our communications systems. Impossible, roared Vraxx. Our encryption is... The main view screen flickered, and to the horror of every Krozian on the bridge, a human face appeared. Female, dark-skinned, with what appeared to be decorative circles over her visual organs. "This is Dr. Amara, Noble of Earth," the human said calmly. "I'm speaking directly to whoever's in charge of this invasion force." Vraxx's rage momentarily gave way to curiosity. "I am Supreme Commander Vraxx of the Krozian Empire, conqueror of 73 worlds. Your primitive species will be the 74th to bow before our might." The human's face showed no fear, only a cold, calculating interest that somehow made Vraxx's exoskeleton itch uncomfortably. "Fascinating," she said. "You have conquered that many worlds? That must mean you have never encountered a species like us before. Your arrogance is amusing, human. What makes your kind so special?" Dr. Noble smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Let me explain something about humans, Commander Vraxx. We have spent our entire evolutionary history trying to kill each other in increasingly creative ways. When we are not fighting each other, we dream up fictional scenarios to test our combat theories. Do you know what our most popular entertainment scenarios involve?" Vraxx remained silent, suddenly wary. "Alien invasions, Commander. We have been mentally rehearsing this exact scenario for generations. And here's the really interesting part. In our stories, humans almost always win. Not because we are stronger or more advanced, but because we are more creative when it comes to violence." The bridge was dead silent as the human continued. "So far, you have lost over 40% of your ground forces to what you probably consider primitive tactics. Improvised explosives, electronic warfare. And we're just getting started." Tactical alerts began blaring across the bridge as the operations officer frantically worked his console. "Supreme Commander, our orbiting support vessels are reporting critical system failures. Something is overriding their navigation protocols." On the screen, Dr. Noble adjusted her glasses. "That would be our first real counterstrike. We have reprogrammed your ships to crash into each other. Crude, but effective. Consider it our formal response to your declaration of war." "This is impossible," Vraxx whispered, watching as the tactical display showed his carefully positioned fleet falling into chaos. "You don't have the technology?" "Oh, we didn't," Noble agreed pleasantly. "But we do now, thanks to the intact ships and technology we have captured over the past 48 hours. You should know something about humans, Commander Vraxx. We learn very quickly, especially when our survival depends on it." Vraxx's rage returned, his exoskeleton flashing through shades of crimson and black. "You think this changes anything? This is merely a setback. The full might of the Krozian Empire will descend upon your world and reduce it to ash." "I was hoping you'd say that," Noble replied, her smile widening slightly. "Because there's one more thing you should know about humans." "And what is that?" Vraxx snarled. "We don't just fight to defend. When threatened, we fight to yindi the threat permanently." "Congratulations, Commander Vraxx. You just declared war on the galaxy's deadliest species. And we're coming for your empire next." The transmission cut off abruptly as the ship shuddered violently. "What was that?" Vraxx demanded. The tactical officer's voice was barely audible. "Something just penetrated our shields. Multiple impacts. They have adapted their kinetic weapons with our own technology." For the first time in his long and blood-soaked career, Supreme Commander Vraxx felt something unfamiliar slither through his nervous system. IT was feared in the underground command center. Dr. Noble removed her headset and turned to General Ramsey. "Well, that went about as expected." Ramsey nodded, watching the real-time satellite imagery of the alien mothership, now surrounded by swarms of retrofitted F-35s armed with reverse-engineered alien weaponry. "You think they bought it? About us coming for their empire next." "Oh, I wasn't bluffing about that part," Noble said quietly, her eyes fixed on the screens showing captured alien technology being rapidly dismantled and analyzed in labs across the globe. Teams of scientists worked alongside military personnel, adapting the alien tech to human use with astonishing speed. "You know what's ironic?" she continued. "Their invasion actually unified humanity in a way nothing else could have. China, Russia, the US, everyone's sharing intelligence, resources, technology. All our petty conflicts seem meaningless now." "The question is," Ramsey said, watching as the first wave of human counterattacks hit the alien mothership's newly vulnerable shields, "what do we do if we actually win this thing?" Noble's expression hardened as she watched the alien vessel beginning to list in the atmosphere, trailing smoke and debris. "We take the fight to them, General. They came here looking for an easy conquest and found the one species in the galaxy crazy enough to punch back against impossible odds and turn their own technology against them," added Ramsey with a grim smile. "Exactly." Noble picked up a tablet showing the schematics of what appeared to be an alien FTL drive being reverse engineered. "They should have studied us more carefully before attacking. They might have realized something crucial about human nature." "What's that?" "We don't just want to survive an alien invasion," Noble said, her eyes gleaming with fierce determination. "Deep down, we have always wanted to win one. Stabilize our position. Redirect power to the forward shields." Supreme Commander Vraxx's mandibles clicked frantically as the command bridge shuddered around him. Warning klaxons blared, the sound drilling into his cranial cavity with maddening persistence. Unable to comply, Supreme Commander, the engineering officer reported, his exoskeleton pale with stress. "The humans have somehow adapted our own gravitic torpedoes and turned them against us. Our shield harmonics are completely destabilized." Another violent impact rocked the massive vessel, sending several crew members tumbling across the tilting deck. Sparks erupted from overloaded consoles, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. "This is impossible," Vraxx muttered, his compound eyes fixed on the tactical display. The primitive mammals had not only neutralized his ground forces, but were now systematically dismantling his orbital fleet. In just 72 hours, these supposedly backward creatures had reverse-engineered Krozian technology that had taken his civilization centuries to perfect. Strategic analyst Zorn approached Vraxx's command chair, her movements steady despite the chaos around them. "Supreme Commander, we must retreat. The humans have captured our forward base in their Nevada region intact. They are learning our systems at an alarming rate." "Retreat." Vraxx's exoskeleton flared with crimson rage. "The Krozian Empire does not retreat from primitives. We have conquered 73 worlds. We will not be defeated by soft-skinned mammals who only recently discovered electricity." The ship lurched again as another barrage of weapons fire impacted the hull. The main view screen flickered, showing swarms of human aircraft, now modified with Krozian technology, circling the mothership like predatory insects. "How are they adapting so quickly?" Vraxx demanded, slamming his appendage on the command console. "It defies all evolutionary logic." Zorn's antenna twitched nervously. "That's what I have been trying to explain, Supreme Commander. These humans have a psychological profile utterly unlike any species we have encountered. They are collaborative competitors. They fight among themselves constantly, but when faced with an external threat, they unite with remarkable efficiency." "Tell me something I don't already know." Vraxx snapped. "Their information systems," Zorn continued urgently. "They are decentralized, redundant, and designed to operate under catastrophic conditions. They call it the Internet. It allows their scientists to share discoveries instantaneously across their entire planet. What took us decades of careful research, they're accomplishing in hours by distributing the workload among millions of minds simultaneously." Communications officer's mandibles clacked in alarm. "Supreme Commander, we are detecting a massive data infiltration. Humans have breached our central database." "Lock them out," Vraxx roared. "I cannot. They are downloading everything. Weapon schematics, star charts, drive specifications, biological data, everything." The realization of what was happening finally penetrated Vraxx's battle-addled mind. This wasn't just a failed invasion. This was something far worse. An involuntary technology transfer to a species that should never have access to advanced galactic science. "Initiate self-destruct protocols," Vraxx ordered, his voice suddenly calm. "We cannot allow our technology to fall into their hands." The bridge crew froze, staring at their commander in disbelief. "The self-destruct mechanism is offline, Supreme Commander," the engineering officer reported hesitantly. "The humans have isolated that system." Vraxx's mandibles trembled with barely contained fury. "Then we have no choice. Evacuation order. All personnel to escape pods. Set a collision course with their primary population center." We will not surrender to these creatures. Impact course plotted for human settlement designated New York City, the navigation officer confirmed. But sir, our engines are operating at only 27% capacity. The humans will have time to evacuate. It matters not, Vraxx hissed. The Krozian Empire will send 100 ships to replace us. 1,000. These humans may have won this battle, but they have doomed themselves to the ship's artificial gravity suddenly failed, sending crew members floating helplessly from their stations. The main lights flickered and died, replaced by the dim red glow of emergency systems. Complete power failure, the engineering officer shouted. Some kind of pulse weapon. They have targeted our main reactor. In the eerie red light, Zorn's compound eyes reflected an emotion rarely seen in Krozians: resignation. You should have studied them more carefully, Supreme Commander. I tried to warn you. Warn me? About what? Their entertainment media, Zorn replied softly. They have been imagining this scenario for generations. In almost every fictional account, the humans disable the alien mothership before it can crash into their population centers. As if on cue, the view screen flickered back to life, showing a human military aircraft latching onto the mothership with some kind of tractor beam, a crude but effective adaptation of Krozian technology. They are towing us, the tactical officer reported incredulously, diverting our trajectory away from the population center and toward an uninhabited ocean region. Vraxx stared at the screen in disbelief. Why would they save their enemies? It makes no tactical sense, because, Zorn said, they don't just want to defeat us. They want to study us, learn from us. In their fiction, they always salvage the alien technology. The communications system crackled to life again, and the human female, Dr. Noble, appeared on screen. Commander Vraxx, this is Dr. Noble again. Your ship is being diverted to a secure location in the Pacific Ocean. We have neutralized your self-destruct capabilities and your weapon systems. I strongly suggest you order your crew to surrender. Vraxx's mandibles clicked in defiance. Krozians do not surrender, human. We fight to the death. That would be extremely wasteful, Noble replied calmly. We have questions about your technology, your biology, your empire. Cooperation would be much more productive for both our species. You think I would betray the empire? Vraxx snarled. I think, Noble said, adjusting her visual aids, that you have an opportunity to be remembered as the Krozian who made first contact with humanity rather than the one who provoked an interstellar war you cannot win. 6 months later, Dr. Amara Noble stood on the observation deck of the International Space Research Facility, watching as teams of human engineers worked alongside a small contingent of Krozian defectors. The alien mothership, now stripped of weapons and redesignated as Prometheus, hovered above the vast Pacific Ocean, its once fearsome silhouette now bristling with human modifications. Quite the view, isn't it? General Ramsey said, joining her at the window. Hard to believe that 6 months ago, we were fighting for our very existence. Noble nodded, her eyes fixed on the incredible sight before them. The integration of Krozian technology has advanced our scientific capabilities by at least 2 centuries. Fusion power, artificial gravity, advanced materials science. It's a technological renaissance. And the FDL drive? Ramsey asked, lowering his voice though they were alone on the deck. 3 weeks until the first test flight. Noble replied with barely contained excitement. The Jupiter orbital platform is almost complete. If the test is successful, we will have our first interstellar vessel by the end of the year. Ramsey's weathered face grew serious. And what about our guests? Are they still being cooperative? Strategic analyst Zorn has been invaluable, Noble said. She's genuinely interested in cultural exchange. As for the others, they're coming around slowly. Except for Vraxx, of course. He still refuses to speak to anyone but Zorn. Can you blame him? His career as the exterminator is over. From what Zorn tells us, the Krozian Empire has already dispatched an investigative fleet. They want to know how their supposedly invincible commander was defeated by primitives. Noble's expression hardened, which gives us approximately 8 months to prepare for their arrival. The global defense grid is already at 40% capacity. The lunar base will be operational in 6 weeks, and the Mars colony has been accelerated to serve as a fallback position if Earth becomes compromised. It's incredible, Ramsey mused. 6 months ago, nations were at each other's throats over the same old territory and resource disputes. Now, we are building defensive infrastructure around the entire solar system in perfect cooperation. Nothing unifies a species like an external threat, Noble said with a thin smile. The Krozians did us a favor in a way. Humanity needed a common enemy. Speaking of enemies, Ramsey said, checking his tablet, the United Nations Space Command wants your input on the first wave of combat vessels. They're scheduled to begin construction next week in orbital shipyards. Noble raised an eyebrow. Combat vessels? I thought we agreed the first ships would be exploratory in nature. Plans change, Ramsey replied grimly. Intelligence from our Krozian allies suggests that the Empire won't send just an investigative fleet. They will send an armada. Hundreds of ships, possibly thousands. They can't allow the news to spread that a primitive species defeated their forces. It would destabilize their control over their conquered worlds. Noble closed her eyes briefly, calculating possibilities. Then we can't just defend. We need to take the fight to them before they can fully mobilize. Exactly. Hence the combat vessels. But we need your expertise on the integration of Krozian weapons technology. I will head down to R&D immediately, Noble said, already moving toward the exit. But, General, if we're going to survive this, if humanity is going to have any future beyond our solar system, we need to think bigger than just weapons. What do you have in mind? Noble paused at the door, her expression intense. The Krozians have conquered 73 worlds, General. That means there are 73 enslaved species out there who would probably welcome liberation. Ramsey's eyes widened slightly as he grasped her implication. You are suggesting we don't just fight the Krozians, but actively free their conquered worlds? Start a galactic rebellion. Precisely, Noble said with a dangerous smile. The Krozians think in terms of direct military confrontation. But humans? We excel at asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics, insurgency. We need to use their size against them. It would mean spreading our forces thin, Ramsey cautioned, taking enormous risks. True, Noble conceded. But think about the potential allies we could gain. 73 species, each with their own unique technologies, perspectives, and capabilities. Together, we could create a coalition that even the Krozian Empire couldn't withstand. Ramsey considered this for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I will present it to the Security Council. But Noble, this isn't just war anymore. This is revolution, on a galactic scale. That's exactly what it is, Noble agreed. And that's precisely why we will win. Deep in the secure detention section of the facility, former Supreme Commander Vraxx paced restlessly in his environmentally controlled cell. Unlike most of his crew, who had gradually accepted their new reality as cultural consultants to the humans, Vraxx remained defiant, his exoskeleton permanently stained with the dark colors of rage and humiliation. The door to his cell slid open, revealing the now familiar figure of strategic analyst Zorn. But unlike her previous visits, she now wore modified human clothing adapted for Krozian physiology and carried herself with a newfound confidence. Still collaborating with the enemy, I see, Vraxx hissed, his mandibles clicking in disgust. They are not the enemy, Vraxx, Zorn replied calmly. They are the future. I have come to offer you one last chance to join us. Join you? In your betrayal of the Empire? Never. Zorn's compound eyes studied him with what might have been pity. The Empire is doomed, Vraxx. You just don't see it yet. Ridiculous. The Empire controls a quarter of the galaxy. These humans have barely left their own planet. That was true 6 months ago, Zorn said. Things have changed. Their first FTL ship launches in 3 weeks. They have already established bases throughout their solar system. Their technological advancement isn't just rapid, it's exponential. Vraxx's antennae twitched skeptically. Even if that's true, the Empire will crush them. You know the size of our fleets. Size isn't everything, Zorn countered. You still don't understand what makes humans different, do you? They don't think like us. They're sending emissaries to every world the Empire has conquered, Vraxx. They are offering freedom, technology, alliance. The subjugated worlds are too afraid to rebel. Vraxx scoffed. They have been under our control for generations. And yet, Zorn said softly, reports are already coming in of uprisings on the outer worlds. Inspired by what happened here on Earth, the story is spreading Vraxx. The story of how one primitive planet defeated the great exterminator. How humans are offering something the Empire never did. Partnership instead of subjugation. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Vraxx's features. It won't work. The Empire has stood for 10,000 years. All empires fall eventually, Zorn said with quiet certainty. Especially those built on fear rather than cooperation. The humans understand something we never did. True strength comes from diversity, from collaboration between different species and cultures, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. She moved closer, lowering her voice. I have seen their plans, Vraxx. They are going to win, not just because they're innovative or adaptable, but because they are offering something better than the Empire ever could. Freedom, respect, a genuine coalition of species working together as equals. Sentimental nonsense, Vraxx muttered, but his tone lacked conviction. Is it? Their scientists work alongside our engineers as equals. Their military commanders seek input from our tactical experts. They have even adapted their environments to accommodate our biological needs. Zorn gestured to her modified clothing. They learn, Vraxx, faster than any species we have ever encountered. And they share what they learn. Freely. Vraxx turned away, unable to meet her gaze. What do you want from me, Zorn? Join us. Help us minimize the bloodshed to come. The Empire doesn't have to fall in fire and destruction. It can evolve into something better. Something that might actually last another 10,000 years. And if I refuse, then you will watch from this cell as everything you believed in crumbles, Zorn said simply. The humans will win with or without you, Vraxx. The only question is how many lives, Krozian and otherwise, will be lost in the process. Vraxx remained silent for a long moment, his compound eyes fixed on the distant stars visible through his cell's small window. Finally, he turned back to Zorn. These humans, he said slowly, you truly believe they can defeat the Empire? I know they can, Zorn replied. They have already begun. Then perhaps, Vraxx said, I should meet with this Dr. Noble again, if only to understand what we are truly facing. Zorn's exoskeleton shifted to a lighter blue, the Krozian expression of hope. I will arrange it immediately. As she left the cell, Vraxx returned to the window, studying the glittering stars with new eyes. For the first time in his long military career, he contemplated not the glory of conquest, but the possibility of transformation. Perhaps these humans, with their bizarre psychology and their boundless adaptability, didn't just represent the end of the Krozian Empire as he knew it. Perhaps they represented its evolution point 1 year after the failed invasion. The newly commissioned UNSC Defiance dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. On its bridge, Captain Jasmine Ortega, formerly a commercial airline pilot before the invasion, changed everything. Watched as the ship's advanced sensors scanned the system. No sign of Krozian presence. Captain, reported Lieutenant Marcus Fleming from the tactical station. The system appears clear. Ortega nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the main view screen showing the red dwarf star and its planetary system. Proceed to the third planet. Approach with caution. Remember, according to our intelligence, this was one of the first worlds conquered by the Krozian Empire nearly 1,000 years ago. Aye, Captain. The sleek vessel, a hybrid of human design and Krozian technology, accelerated smoothly toward the distant planet. On the command deck, humans worked alongside the handful of Krozian defectors who had chosen to join this first mission of contact and liberation. Technical Advisor Zorn, her new title reflecting her changed allegiance, studied the incoming data with practiced efficiency. The planet shows signs of a technologically advanced civilization. Captain, energy signatures consistent with pre-Krozian subjugation levels. If the native population overthrew their overseers, they have been advancing rapidly. Just as Dr. Noble predicted, Ortega mused. The news of Earth's resistance has sparked a chain reaction. Captain, called out Communications Officer Patel. We are receiving a transmission from the planet. Audio and visual. Ortega straightened her uniform. The new dark blue of the United Nations Space Command with its distinctive emblem of Earth surrounded by protective stars. On screen, the view screen shifted to show an alien face, vaguely insectoid but with distinctly mammalian characteristics. Its large, multifaceted eyes widened visibly at the sight of humans on the bridge. "This is High Council Member Thraxus of the Vexillian Resistance," the alien said in carefully articulated Galactic Standard, a language Earth had learned from the Krozian databases. "Identify yourselves. You fly a vessel of unknown configuration." Ortega stepped forward, her posture confident but non-threatening. "I am Captain Jasmine Ortega of the United Nations Space Command Vessel Defiance. We come from Earth, the world that successfully repelled a Krozian invasion force 1 local year ago. We have come offering alliance against the Counterattack Empire." The alien's features registered shock, then cautious hope. "The rumors are true. Then, a pre-FTL world actually defeated a Krozian subjugation fleet." "Not only defeated," Zorn said, stepping into view beside Ortega, "but adapted their technology and now seek to liberate all worlds under Krozian control." Thraxus's eyes narrowed at the sight of a Krozian working alongside humans. You have allied with Krozians?" "With those who chose freedom over tyranny," Ortega clarified. "Just as we now offer alliance to your people. Earth stands ready to share technology, resources, and military support with all species who wish to throw off the Empire's control." "Why would you do this?" Thraxus asked, suspicion evident in his tone. "What do you gain by helping worlds you have never even heard of until now?" Ortega smiled, a genuine expression that somehow transcended the vast biological differences between their species. "Because united, we can achieve what none of us could alone. A galaxy where all intelligent species determine their own destiny, where cooperation replaces conquest." And she added with a hint of the fierce determination that had defined humanity's response to the invasion. "Because the Krozian Empire made a critical mistake when they attacked Earth." "What mistake was that?" Thraxus asked, that Ortega's smile turned slightly predatory. "They taught us that we are not alone in the universe, and then they gave us the means to do something about it." Thraxus seemed to consider this for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "The Vexillian High Council welcomes your delegation, Captain Ortega. We have much to discuss about this alliance." As the communication ended, Ortega turned to her crew. "Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. First Contact Team Alpha will accompany me to the surface." She glanced at Zorn. "Thoughts, advisor?" Zorn's compound eyes reflected the starlight with an almost human expression of satisfaction. "Captain, I believe we have just taken the first step toward what your Dr. Noble called the Galactic Coalition. The Empire won't know what hit them." "No," Ortega agreed, looking out the stars that no longer seemed distant and unreachable. "They won't, because they have never faced anything like us before." Across the galaxy, aboard the massive Krozian dreadnought Invincible, newly promoted Grand Marshal Vraxx received the disturbing report from his intelligence officers. "The humans have made contact with the Vexillians," the officer reported nervously. "And there are reports of similar diplomatic missions to 6 other formerly subjugated worlds." Vraxx's exoskeleton darkened with anger. "How are they moving so quickly? They have barely had our technology for a standard year." "Unknown, Grand Marshal, but they are adapting it in ways we never considered. Their FTL drives are already 15% more efficient than our best designs." "Impossible. There's more," the intelligence officer continued reluctantly. "The humans are freely sharing weapons technology with the rebel worlds. They are forming what they call a galactic coalition for freedom. Already, 17 former Imperial worlds have pledged allegiance. For the first time in the 10,000-year history of the Krozian Empire, its leaders felt something they had never experienced before: existential fear. Not just of defeat, but of something far more profound: irrelevance that, in attacking Earth, they had unwittingly awakened a sleeping giant and filled it with a terrible resolve. They had declared war on a species that didn't just fight to survive, but fought to win, completely and decisively. A species that, once provoked, would not rest until the threat was eliminated. The Krozians had conquered 73 worlds in their long history, but they had never before encountered humanity, and that would prove to be their final, fatal mistake.